myself. This is my husband, Bob. I'm Debbie Foster. This is myself and our daughter, Lydia, and we are standing in front of the Stanley Grow medical marijuana that does the Charlotte's Web in Colorado, and the realm of caring is involved here too. And this is the plant that little Charlotte Figgy that you just saw in there is taking. I just wanted to show you that. And
you want to set this up here so that people can see that while you're...
Put a face behind it.
All right, Debbie, anytime you're ready.
Thank you, Senator and Representatives, for having me tonight. My husband and I were both born and raised in Pennsylvania. We went to college and we met in Pennsylvania. We own a small farm in Pennsylvania. We both have octogenarian parents in Pennsylvania and right across the line in Maryland. We raised 9 children and are still raising them. We have grandchildren in Pennsylvania. We love Pennsylvania. So why did we move to Colorado? I took my daughter at the end of October, and at the end of November, my husband brought our 4 other young daughters out so that I could be their mom, even though our family was totally split in half. We had, I'm trying to count, 4 more kids back here in Pennsylvania, 2 going to college and 2 married. And my husband stayed home here because he's about 2 years away from 30 years teaching, so he couldn't come out with us. We moved to Colorado because our 7th child, Lydia, has epilepsy. She was diagnosed 10 years ago this month. She's also going to be 16 this month. Every day for the last 10 years, that movie was hard to see, she's had 400 to 300 seizures every day for 10 years. Anywhere from petit mal to grand mal. She has failed at least 7 drugs. We were in the hospital one time when she was seizing every 15 minutes, and even after a few days of drugs put in her, heavy drugs, she was still seizing every 15 to 30 minutes. They were calmer, but she was still seizing every. And at that point, I asked them if we could go home because it was Christmas time, and we did. Because the drugs they were offering could potentially ruin her liver or cause something that would be debilitating, and we didn't want that. She's also not a surgical candidate for brain surgery. We've tried many diets and natural therapies. The list goes on and on and on. When I was growing up, my mom, who was a registered nurse, taught me that there was that even before all the sophisticated medicine, the doctors used herbs, and that the properties of herbs were still the foundation for some medicines. So in my quest to help Lydia, we tried many herbal remedies that we could buy for a respectable price and use them at home. My husband and I grew up in the 70s. We were teenagers in the 70s. But we knew smoking was illegal, smoking pot. So we didn't do it. Neither of us tried it. But several years ago, when we heard that medical cannabis may stop seizures, it was never even a question in our minds as to whether we would use it for our daughter. Of course we would. If it stopped seizures and didn't have side effects, of course we would use it. We just didn't know how to get our hands on it legally. My husband said, if an herb can be that powerful to make you high, there must be something in it that can change your brain for the better. Just a side note here. Before we went to Colorado, my 80-year-old mother, who would have reported us if we smoked pot in the 70s. She said that. They said that. She actually came to my house one day and said, Debbie, your nephew can hook you up with plants. I'm not kidding. He can hook you up with grow lights. He can hook you up with a good vape. Now, these people can get it easily, but the sick people can't. And she was serious. She did not want to see. They moved down to Gettysburg to be with us. She didn't want to see 5 of her grandkids moving away, and me moving away for we didn't know how long. That was an aside anyway. Okay. So we were there for 4 months, 3 months on the famous cannabis strain Charlotte's Web. The first week we met little Charlotte, who the plant was named after. She was running around and playing with the other kids. Before cannabis, she was so bad off that her parents signed a do not resuscitate order. There she was running around playing. Several weeks later we met Zakai. And if any of you follow Charlotte's Web, Zakai is one of the other ones that you see, a very famous kid. And he was on the original Sanjay Gupta CNN documentary Weed. He had seizures as many as Lydia or more for 9.5 years until he started on Charlotte's Web. He was not potty trained in 9.5 years. He couldn't count. He couldn't say his letters. He couldn't talk very well. He was one of the next kids to start on Charlotte's Web. When my kids were playing with him this last year at our Christmas party out in Colorado with all the families out there, they didn't realize that he had had seizures. That's how normal he was at that point. And I just got word from his mom yesterday that he's been 18 months seizure-free, just on Charlotte's Web alone. Let me tell you about Lydia on Charlotte's Web. She wasn't one of the real quick responders. We were hoping for immediate change. I mean, who wouldn't? You're looking for a magic bullet. I'm sure every parent in the world wishes they had the opportunity, like I did, to try this. What we did notice, though, was her grandma's seizures at night literally got shorter and shorter and shorter until they stopped. And those kind of seizures are the worst, and she mostly has them at night. When she wakes up in the morning, a lot of her memory's gone. After a grand mal seizure, she literally cannot move. She's basically paralyzed for about 30 minutes. Can't talk, can't move, can't do anything. Her daytime seizures were lessening, but it didn't take them all away. And then she kind of came to a standstill, and so we were a little frustrated that she wasn't making further progress. As the months went on, concerns of finances and having our family separated took their toll on us. By the time my husband came to visit us in late February, he found 4 of us very sick. We were 6 people living in a 1-bedroom basement apartment to make this work. That's not why we were sick, but anyway. I don't remember a time when we had been that sick, and he said, "Let's pack up and go home." Shortly before this time, we had found a company that sold a high CBD hemp oil that was legal to ship in all states, all 50 states. After going to visit them and seeing their lab report, we felt like this would be our ticket home. We bought some before we went home. Now, this is a CBD oil that comes from plants in the UK. That's a cannabis-based plant. It's classified as hemp because the THC is very low. These plants, including Charlotte's Web, have some THC, but it's very, very low. I looked at the profile in the lab report, and if it was true, it was pretty similar. So the question is, well, why can't everybody use this? Well, there's reasons, which I'll tell you. So we bought some of this, and we came home. At the time that we bought this, we didn't feel like Lydia needed any THC in the product, or very little, so we took it home. But some kids do need THC, and this is one of the things I really want to talk about tonight. While in Colorado, we met all kinds of sick kids, and many of whom were not there for epilepsy. They were there for all kinds of things. There was a teenage girl who when she was about 12, she took some heavy antibiotics for a very hard to control infection that she had. And it just ripped her intestines apart. And for the next year and a half, she lost so much weight and lost 5 years of cognition that her parents thought they were going to lose her. They lived in a non-legal state, and her parents tried everything that the medical community had to offer and all kinds of side effects, all kinds of other avenues, natural avenues. And finally, when they learned about marijuana and a little bit higher THC marijuana, they realized that this could help her because it causes, well, back then they said it causes the munchies. It causes you to be hungry, and it gives you an appetite, and it stops nausea. She was throwing up all her food. The doctor said she was anorexic. They wanted to take her for a psychotic evaluation. They were forced to find some marijuana on the street. They gave it to her. And the first meal, she didn't throw up. Instead of losing weight over the next month, she started gaining weight. And they did that for a few months until they could get out to Colorado because they didn't feel good about doing that. But they basically wanted to save the life of their daughter. That's one of them that I met. Another situation was a mom came to me in tears at one of our support meetings. She had to leave her family and her husband and her other kids and bring her teenage son to Colorado for his